biggest concentration of sturgeon, and they go from 3, 4, 5 feet up to 8, 10, 12 feet long. So it's a really big fish. Some of the ones that they've marked and tagged here, a few months later, they're re-caught 200 miles up the Columbia River. And then they've been released there because it's always a fish and release. You can't catch and kill these things. They put them back in the water, and then a few months later they're back here again. These fish, travel that 1,000 miles almost without any problem, back and forth, just depending on where their food is. And their food, because they're basically vacuum cleaners, is whatever detritus, dead fish, they can suck up off the bottom. And in this case, they're here to suck up the salmon carcasses. Other river systems they go into, or different seasons, they're working on, sometimes it's herring, but mainly oolakan that go up the rivers, along with a few other kinds of fish. Big vacuum cleaners. And we, of course, have given you the guarantee of eagles, at least one. When we got, just minutes before we got on the boat, there was over 100 just soaring over the docking area. When you get a breeze like we have today, eagles can go up and fly and not expend any energy, because with that lift of air going up against the mountain. So this was one of the favored routes. It avoided going through the Fraser Canyon and Hell's Gate and so on. It was all a little bit more civilized, except the hike overland at the other end. It was a bit of a backbreaker. As soon as we pass underneath the bridge here, as soon as we pass under the bridge, you're going to see on the left a big bay. It's called Harrison Bay. Rob was saying only about 4 feet of water in the main parts of the Fraser, so it's a way down yet. It'll come up. The locals call these the Christmas trees because they're often dominated by little ornaments, Christmas ornaments. The only thing is the Christmas ornaments are eagles. And in my talk that I give, I have a shot that I took like right about from here one day, and there was 84 eagles in the shot, and I thought that was kind of good. But last week when we were out, we had 97 in the shot. So it changes by the minute. A few minutes later, there was none because a kayaker went underneath them. You never know how many there's going to be, but my new record is 97. On the dividing line, there's the clean water from the Harrison and the brown water from the Chehalis, which is entering just a few hundred yards up here. So that brown water is coming out of that valley. That's the Chehalis Valley, right up there. There's a big lake, Chehalis Lake, a whole bunch of small rivers that run down there, and that's what's lifted this river up in the last 24 hours, raised it to 2 feet. The water coming down there is, because it's just a lot of fresh water, it's cutting into cut banks and causing erosion and all that mud in the water, whereas the water coming out of the Harris, of course, has gone through a deep lake and there's no sediment in it, so it's nice and clear and blue. So these, so what happens to these eagles as soon as they leave here? Well, two things. Number one, this is the beginning already of the nesting season. The birds for their nesting territories in southern British Columbia already took up residence in October. But the northern birds don't go to their nesting territories till the north thaws out, which may not be till March or April. So most of these birds here are northern birds which can't go to their nesting territories yet. So it's a bit of a worry for our local birds because they got all these visitors intruding their local nest. But the nesting doesn't take place till March or February, and all the northern birds that are here now will have gone back north because they'll have had to reassume their own territories. Yeah. Yeah, this is a juvenile bird. We might, sometimes they're very tolerant. There's also some more adults, or an adult sitting on a piling up here, but that one may not want to fly. Yeah, it's the same guys. They're not going to want to hear us pointing to it. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to tell you, that is a bald. In fact, there's two bald eagle nests there. That one nearer by was used 2 years ago, but the new nest is the one you can see on the horizon in those trees through there. They built that one last year, raised 2 young in it, and haven't bothered with this one. And I suspect we've seen them at that back one already several times this year. So I suspect they're going to continue to use that one. I don't know why they abandoned this one, but those two nests belong to the same pair. Those are too close for 2 pairs to occupy. White Rock and Boundary Man is the most productive eagle habitat, and they're lined up almost every half mile of a nest along Crescent Beach there. And our cameras are in one of those nests. So because there's so much competition, the eagles tend to spend more time guarding their nest. If you've got binoculars, look out across the edge. And the first white birds here, of course, are gulls. But over on the far white birds, those are all trumpeter swans. And you'll see the beach area there is lined with eagles. It takes them 5 years to basically get that white head and tail. So for the first 5 years, they have a brown plumage, a varying plumage every year, but a version of brown. A lot of people say, oh, they're golden eagles. Well, they're not golden eagles. They're young bald eagles. Pick up these updrafts, and they can move 300, 400, 500 miles in a day literally without flapping their wings. And that's how they move up and down the coast. When the young birds leave the nest, it's a kind of, almost to me, a biological wonder. They go from hatching to fledging, making their first flight in 12 weeks, almost precisely 12 weeks. And when they leave the nest at 12 weeks of age, they're bigger than they're ever going to be again in their life. Their wings are longer, wider, they weigh a little extra because they've got baby fat on, and when that same bird matures, it's going to be about 6 inches shorter in the wingspan than it was, is so that they can more effectively soar, because it takes a year or 2 before an eagle learns how to hunt. And so they can't hunt for the first year or so. They have to find something dead or steal something from somebody else. So these great wings let them cover hundreds of miles in a day. Here comes one right up to us. Oh, that's a bird in its 5th year. It's got a black rim on the tail. It could breed this year, but it's just coming into the breeding season. We've got a photographer sitting up, 2 of them, sitting up on an island up here. We were a point. We put them out there earlier this morning. And last year when this guy did, he photographed a tree that was quite a distance when I was doing my count. And I said, there's 7 birds there. He showed me a blow-up of the photograph, and there were 17 in the photo. So I was kind of underestimating them. Well, I counted them absolutely, but there was 7 adults and 10 juveniles, and I could not see the brown juveniles in the tree. It's fine when you see them silhouetted. There's an adult and a young together. That's easy. But when they're a half mile away in the trees, they're harder to spot, identify the young. Do the juveniles go back to the same nest? It's pretty likely we can now say yes. There's been a few tag birds, satellite tags, that have come back to exactly the same place. And I want what you've got. And there's always a constant battle for whoever. In fact, you'll sometimes see a bar out here. There'll be 10,000 fish carcasses, but there's one fish carcass that all the eagles want to eat. They don't want the other 9,900. They want one, and they're going to argue over who gets that one. Yes, those are all eagles along the shoreline over there. Every black dot is an eagle. And if you look into these trees, almost for every white bird, white-headed adult, there's going to be a juvenile. On the average in the whole population, it is about equal. There's about 1 for 1. One juvenile of 1 to 5 years, and then one adult. The reason there aren't more, or there's so many young, is that the young are free to move around. The adults, many of them, are stuck on their nest territories now, defending their territory. So these are probably more likely northern adults that simply can't go to their nesting because it's frozen up and there's nothing there. So they're free to move south, along with all the juveniles that don't have a territory.
Just like you said, they're all on one carcass right here, the 3 of them.
That will be all the sturgeon saying thank you, because all those carcasses washed off the shoreline will now be just sucked up by these great sturgeon.
You answered a critical question for me because yesterday.
Conservancy has another big section of the land going down in the floodplain, going down toward where the road is, the highway. They don't own it all. We're trying to get a kind of preserve put in here on these lands to stop the kayakers and the hunters from going out there, because it's actually now quite huntable. You know, the blue sky is coming. Look at that, eh? That's good. Well, none too soon. Don't have a lot of predators. A few bears have got into eagle nests and torn them apart, as have wolverines. But generally speaking, the eagle's only real menace is us. And of course, we're a menace to everything on the earth.